Epic, the Great Angelic War. There was a disturbance in the essence. Every being in heaven could feel it. A shifting of reality-changing level was about to happen. Most of the heavenly hosts knew or partially knew what was happening, but no one would be prepared for the chaos that was soon to come. Never had there been division in the holy place. Never had the influence of the darkness broke through the barrier of the everlasting light. For ages upon ages there was nothing but love, light, and eternal harmony amongst the Creator and His creation in His holy place. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, that would all change. Nothing would ever be the same after the events that are about to unfold. The signal came in the form of a trumpet blast, and the Black Third began to mobilize at the speed of light. Everyone in their respective lines and ranks. The more powerful angels were positioned on the front lines, and the weaker ones brought up the rear. There was no sound to be heard, only the shifting in the atmosphere as the beings of light, now clothed in darkness, assembled themselves against the Lord Almighty. As far as sight could see was an endless sea of black that began to form ranks as the fellow angels watched in confusion and horror. They would have to strike quickly to do the most damage before God's holy angels interfere. They were all gathered in the courtyard of Nomulus, which is the vast expanse beyond the sea of glass before the mountain of the throne. Normally, to enter into the presence of the one from beyond, one must fly into the realm of his marvelous light and just bask in it. But Lucifer decided he wants his armies to march on the holy grounds of Nomulus all the way to the base of the throne steps. Now the thunderous boom of trillions of feet echo in the essence as they make haste towards the place of the Most High. As they walked up the mountain, they see the sights that Lucifer alone and the Unon had only seen. For some of these angels, this will be the closest they've ever been to the one from beyond. The evil upon them was a great stench in God's holy places, and grounds hissed and cried out as they marched. The inhabitants of the kingdom began to fall silent one by one as the ocean of blackness filled the expanse of Nomulus and began to cover the crystal mountain of God in black as they moved higher into the essence. The 24 elders barely notice their presence as they are suspended in the essence, giving never-ending praise and worship to the one from beyond. They wore robes of living eternal flame that changed colors. Soon their praises became drowned in the sounds of the vast armies of Lucifer. As they crossed the sea of glass, what takes notice to the coming tide of blackness are the four mighty beasts full of eyes before and behind the base of the throne. The first beast was like a lion, and the second beast like a calf. The third beast had a face as a man, and the fourth beast was like a flying eagle. Each of the four beasts had 6 wings and were filled with eyes inside and out. These beasts never rest and worship day and night, saying, "Holy, holy, holy, Lord God Almighty, which was and is." At first it looked as if they were going to attack, but at some unheard command they stayed at peace and continued to worship. They growled and barked as the angels marched by but did not attack. The 4 mighty beasts bow their heads and back away at Lucifer's approach. There was thunder and lightning and voices, the many names of God whispering over and over. Floating high in the essence were 7 massive lamps of fire burning, which were the 7 spirits of God. The lamps were glowing orbs of golden light. These lamps began to pulsate a bright red light as the armies of evil passed by. It was as if the most holy of places could feel the evil in its presence. The sounds of the great holy mountain grew less as they marched higher. Leading the massive Black Third was the Unon Archangel Lucifer. Normally he is adorned in majestic jewels with gleaming organ pipes coming out of his back below massive white and gold wings. Now he wears an epic cloak of darkness covering his beauty. The radiant flame of divine light that was his hair has somehow been extinguished, leaving a figure void of true purpose. Next to him, and also dressed in black, is Nod, constantly assuring Lucifer that his rightful place is on the holy seat. His flame has also been extinguished, along with all of the Black Third. In their ultimate show of defiance to the one from beyond, the powers, thrones, cherubims and seraphims all clothed themselves in black, and on the back of their cloak was branded the new Luciferian seal in the color of human blood. As they reach high into the essence sphere, it is almost dead silent now. The only sounds are the feet of many and the whispers coming from the ranks. Many are scared beyond comprehension, but they still maintain faith in their leaders. Finally, they reach the top of the holy mountain. They come to the first of 7 massive steps leading up to what is known as the Door of the Most High Holy of Holies. The armies are commanded to wait at the bottom of the steps until the order to attack is given. Lucifer growls in a deep, low tone and begins to glow as the ground starts to shake. He spreads his mighty wings, which in itself is a miraculous sight to behold, and with one flap, ascends high into the essence. The winds from his effort were strong enough to force the 4 beasts to shade themselves using their own wings. The door of the throne room was a colossal spectacle indeed. It was massive, far beyond human comprehension. Looking upon it would be equivalent to looking at the sky from Earth. It was solid gold with unknown jewels embedded in it. On the top of the door reads King of Kings, and on the bottom says Lord of Lords. In the middle spells everlasting to everlasting, and other unknown words and hieroglyphics, probably the ancient language of the spirit realm. As Lucifer floats in front of the great door, the light and beauty of his body begin to shine even through the cloak of darkness. Being so close to the Father, his body knows only one response. This angers him greatly, and he begins to mutilate himself before the great throne room door. First he rips the pipes out of his back, and curses them and their creator, and casts them to the ground far below. The dark angels scurry out of the way as the shining tubes of sound make impact with the ground with a loud clanging sound. He then puts his hand to his throat and rips out all 5,000 of his vocal cords and casts them to the ground far below. The wounds to his neck heal instantly, of course. This was more so a demonstration of defiance. Lucifer then takes his crown, the Unon crown of the first angel, and crushes it in his hand, and likewise casts it to the ground. With that motion, all of heaven gasps in unison. That action prompted the doors of God to swing open with deafening winds and a blinding light. There was a low hum of many voices as deep as the depths of the deepest sea. Each voice was calling upon all of the many names of God. The winds of the voices rippled through the essence, blowing Lucifer back an inch before he steadied himself. In his mind, he mustn't show any signs of weakness or fear, for he is the one that should be feared. The Black Third's eyes went wide in surprise. At the door stood a lone figure. His face was that of 1,000 exploding suns. A massive, slowly spinning crown sat just above what would be considered his head, but not worthy to touch him. The crown had 10,000 diamond steeples sitting atop 10,000 mountains of pure gold. His skin appeared as flowing liquid light. His hair was as white as snow and appeared as a gigantic cloud of pure divine energy. Lightning flashed in his enormous beard. He was dressed in a robe of holiness that pulsed with divine energy and light. To gaze upon him is to gaze upon affection. Here stood the King of Glory, the Lord strong and mighty. The sheer force of his presence alone was enough to cause some of the Black Third to bail out in sheer terror. Even within the blinding light of his face, his eyes could be seen as a blaze of eternal fire like 2 epic everlasting galaxies. Up above his crown sat a gigantic rainbow, and on the right side of his crown sat a burning star, and to the left sat a moon. He who stands at the door is the creator of all things in heaven and in the lower realm. He is the creator of every heaven and every earth realm. All of heaven braces for what is to come. The one from beyond opens his mouth, and the echo of the word reaches their senses before the actual sound does. "Speak," the Master commanded. Lucifer, full of vanity, full of vile and evil, spreads his white and gold wings and speaks boastfully.
You know why I'm here. I'm sick of being your lackey. Look, I have amassed a vast army. A third of the angelic host beckons to my call. They all know the truth that I cover and protect you. But now it's my turn to be adored and worshipped. It is my turn to sit atop the holy mountain. It is my turn to have the uncountable number of souls across trillions of worlds to worship me. I proclaim myself higher than the Most High, for it is I who shall be King of all kings and the Lord of all lords.
Lucifer barks at the King of Kings while his third of the host cheers him on, and the rest of heaven stands in complete utter shock. General Nod and Baal the Unclean One get their troops amped and primed for Lucifer's signal. Then, with the voice of a billion oceans, God speaks again. Stand down, O vain spirit, for it was I who created you from nothing, and it is I who can destroy you. The demonic host cursed the Father's holy name and hissed and barked in utter defiance of the Holy One from beyond.
You lie,
Lucifer shouts, and his countenance begins to glow blood red.
It is my beauty and power that surpasses all knowledge and all understanding. Before all of this, it was just you and I. You created me to be perfect, and in that perfection, I've seen fault in you, O Father. You knew this moment would come, and that's why you created the lower realm to feed you praise and worship in my place. Those pathetic life forms can never equal the power and glory that is I. I am the first, and I will be the last. You said so yourself, Father. No, I will not stand down, for it is I who will ascend my throne high above yours. All you have to do is fulfill your destiny and bow to me.
Heaven goes silent again for seemingly a millennia. Then suddenly, like a roll of 1,000 thunders, God laughs. Thou art a fool, angel. No evil shall inhabit my kingdom. Depart from me, workers of iniquity. Depart from me, children of the darkness. At the sound of the fourth trumpet ye shall be cast into the lower realm, prepared for mankind. You will watch them take your place by my side, as I shall prepare a place for your eternal suffering. The Almighty turns his back to Lucifer and his armies. Lucifer, now enraged that he had been shown such disrespect, shows the ultimate desecration of himself by transforming into a horrific brimstone dragon 1,000 feet tall with 7 heads and 7 tails, with 7 black crowns on its head, cursing God in 7 different ways. Its roar shakes the heavens, but the Holy One from beyond never addresses him or even moves. The now satanic dragon draws upon the holy energies of the darkness and prepares to assault the King of Kings with a fire blast of concussive force, strong enough that it could conceivably rip the lower realm of Earth in two. He curses the name of God and releases the epic wave of destruction from all 7 heads. It travels through the essence at the speed of light, aimed to strike the Father in the middle of his back path. As it closes in on its target, 2 figures of light appear just as it's about to strike the king and obliterate the blast. The archangels Michael and Gabriel stood on guard. Now, for the first time ever, the angelic trinity stood at odds. Michael stood handsome and majestic with a devastating sun sword in one hand and a ball of lightning in his other hand. His hair a flame of white fire, and his wings were vast with layers. He wore his holy armor made from heaven's gold with the holy seal on his breastplate. Gabriel, the youngest of the angelic trinity, looked almost like Lucifer, minus the instruments and jewels. His hair was a flame of white and gold. In his hands was the trumpet of Antioch, and in his other was a golden shield with a symbol of the archangels on it. They both wore a look of mere emotions. Confusion and sadness were the most noticeable. Never could they have imagined that this moment would come where there would be a war in God's most holy place. Their oldest brother had gone mad and corrupted a vast number of their younger brothers. What was about to take place would be remembered forever and ever. Satan looked at them in disgust and then looked back at his armies.
Remember this day, my brothers. Attack!
At his command, a haze of black took flight. Billions of flapping wings create a deafening, thunderous boom that echoes in the essence. Satan snarled and whips his tail at his brothers, knocking them aside. He then fires another disruptive blast from 3 heads at the back of the father. This blast, a horrific black ball with a blood-red tail, hisses through the essence, but is then intercepted. Gabriel takes the blast head-on, using his wings as a shield. As his vision is blocked by wings, Baal blasts him from behind, sending him crashing towards the mob of black. Satan fires again, this time from all 7 heads. This blast was the most epic so far. With Michael and Gabriel both currently out of the battle, it's certain that this blast will connect. The holy mountain of God begins to quake at the coming destruction. The beam connects. Everything goes white and silent for what would be considered 10 seconds. Then the sounds of battle fade in, as well as vision slowly returns. To Satan's shock and horror, when the light and smoke clear, he now sees the one above all, now facing him, unharmed, unfazed, and very much unamused. Attack the inhabitants of evil, God says as the holy angelic army descends onto the battlefield like a giant swarm of light. White and black dance in a grey haze of carnage. Michael and Gabriel continue their attack on Satan, who is growing more and more angry as the battle rages on. Michael slashes at one of Satan's heads with his mighty sun sword, injuring it at the neck. The beast lets out a deafening howl as a spiked tail impales Michael. Baal laughs as Michael drops his sword. Baal says as he yanks his tail out and kicks him in the face, sending him crashing towards Gabriel. Satan turns his attention back to the father. His voice hissed like the sound of many serpents.
Last chance to bow and save some dignity while you still can,
Satan taunted. The father just stood there and looked at the battle in his holy place. Gabriel grabs his injured brother and takes flight away from the battlefield. Lucifer sees them flying away from the mayhem with what looks like his crushed crown in hand.
You see that? Cowards. And yet you dare condemn me to the lower earth realm?
Satan transforms back into his former state.
The angelic armies are a joke. They fight with no real passion, no real conviction. Today will be talked about forever. The day I became king of all realms.
God looks at Satan and speaks directly into his very being. Every time you think you've won, I will show you why I am. Everything happens because I allow it. You will learn soon enough, my son. Until next time. With those words, God steps back and the door shuts with an epic clap that pauses the battle for a second.
He has left you. What a coward you serve.
Satan shouts with great excitement. Gabriel shouts from below. Michael and Gabriel appear before him. This time Michael has a new weapon in hand. A sword that was forged in the heat of war in heaven now rests in the hands of Michael the Archangel. The handle of the sword was solid pearl and diamonds were scattered about it. The blade itself was forged using the metal of the Unon crown that had been cast down and was glazed with liquid diamond. The sword was blessed and divine.
So you got fixed up and got a brand new toy, I see. Well, no matter. I will wipe the essence of your foul stench.
Satan bellowed. Satan fired a blue laser of lightning from his left hand. Michael catches the blast on the blade of the sword and the power clash ensues. Michael then fires his blast of divine power from the blade of the sword. An epic violet light erupts from the blade of the sword, pushing the blast of Satan back more and more. As Baal tries to sneak another shot on Michael, this time he is opposed with devastating force by Gabriel, who blows his trumpet, causing the very fabric of the essence to vibrate, causing a destructive wave. Baal is blown back into the ranks, tumbling over a mass of wings and swords. Shockwaves ripple across eternity in the wake of Gabriel's trumpet blast. The sea of glass begins to grow restless as the great storm of war causes chaos in the heavens. Up above, Satan and Michael are locked in a savage display of light and power. The other angels cease fighting to look up at the 2 giant waves of energy fighting for supremacy. The powers that are being unleashed cannot be measured by human measurements. The sounds of many voices began to fill the essence, both good and evil. The holy mountain of God begins to quake and split down the middle under the violence and sheer vast divine energies released. Satan snarls as part of his black coat is burned off, more like evaporated into the essence. Satan pulls up his right hand and fires a wave of black energy. So violent evil is this blast that it knocks Michael back, but he maintains his grip on his mysterious sword. Gabriel appears beside his brother holding his trumpet of Antioch and preparing to strike. His wings were shimmering in his own light. He raises the horn to his lips and unleashes another violent blast, shaking every demon to the core. Satan staggers back and Michael's beam inches closer to its target. Gabriel takes in another deep breath of the essence and releases another even greater blast. In the physical realm, uninhabited planets shatter into dust and stars are blotted out as a candle's light in the midst of a great storm. The demonic horde begins to shriek and retreat as the agonizing sound violates their very being. The howls in the essence grow deafening, as do the curses against the angels of God and to his name. It seems that with every blast, the once divine aura of Lucifer fades away, along with his once unquestioned will and confidence. He was finally starting to believe in his dark heart that he would not win, that he cannot win. He had seen firsthand the glory and the power of the Father. He remembers when he first became aware, how there was nothing but him and the One. He even remembered the mass creation of all of his brethren and being elevated above them all. He remembered when God created the physical plane of reality. He remembered how God waved his hand and the universe came to be. He remembered when God created the lower realm of earth from mere words. He remembered the creation of all the creatures of all the worlds. As the corrupted divine power flows through him like a concussive avalanche of pure energy, he realizes that he is no longer the vision of perfection. Now he fights against his own self-doubt as well as his family. The evil in him is like cancer that spreads, consuming him. Once the vision of a purest love, Lucifer has now become the destructor, the accuser, and the father of lies. At this point there is no turning back. God has spoken. His eyes burst into flames as he roars with a last effort to push back Michael's epic wave. He curses the name of the Father, Son, and Spirit and pauses the beams, bending the sword back with sheer divine force. As if in slow motion, Gabriel takes one final deep breath and the demons scurry for cover, because they remember what God said would happen when the horn is sounded 4 times. Gabriel spreads his mighty wings and blows into his horn. Once again, the sound is so intense that the essence turns white as snow in a blinding light. Satan is so disrupted by the blast that he loses concentration and is overcome by Michael's blast. He is launched back down into the base of the mountain of God. At the sound of the 4th trumpet blast, the holy door of God has been reopened. Out steps the one above all in the form of the sun. So majestic is he from beyond that even the angels dare not look upon him in his anger. All heads bow in the presence of the sun, except one, smoking and defeated. Satan floats up to meet him, still defiant, his eyes burning with mutual hatred and respect for whatever his sentence shall be. The sun stood glowing with an epic divine light. The 7 golden lamps were now spinning around him from top to bottom. His skin was also flowing like rivers of light. His eyes were an eternal flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns. Each crown was different and represented its own distinct reality. He had a name written that no one knew but he himself. He was clothed in a robe dipped in liquid essence. There was a readable name written on his thigh, King of Kings and Lord of Lords, and his name is called the Word of God. What happens next can only be described as unspeakable. The mountain of God goes utterly silent as father and son have a direct conversation that no one else can hear. Then, with a voice of great multitude, and as the voice of many waters, and as the voice of mighty thunderings, the Lord God spoke 3 final words. "Depart from me," God commanded. Every color flashed in its own perfect light. In that same instant he uttered those words did a huge galaxy-sized spiraling void open up at the base of the mountain. The void's strength was that of 1 trillion black holes, ensnaring every inhabitant of evil from the sight of the sun. Billions of black angels are sucked into the void, being hurled down at the speed of darkness to the earth realms below. Wings flap in futility as the very essence is now under the authority of the void. The sound of their futile howls is only eclipsed by the deafening growl produced by the hunger of the void. Baal and Nod strain to hold their ground, but are overwhelmed by the sheer will of the void and are swept away into the thunderous galaxy of oblivion. The angelic host begins to weep in unison as their brothers exit God's holy place. Finally, the most powerful and first angel Lucifer begins to slowly descend towards the void. He keeps his hate-filled glare on the sun and does not resist the pull of the void. As he inches close to the bottomless pit, he spreads his mighty wings wide and the remaining shards of his black cloak evaporates. His mutilated body shines his divine light, still the most beautiful of all, even in his defeated state. As arrogant and as proud as ever, he shouts with a loud voice,
They may have been a little lower than my brothers. They can never be me.
Satan bellowed. His laugh echoed even above the horrific roar of the void. The combined sound reverberated in the realm of the king until Lucifer himself was sucked away and the void collapsed into itself and vanished into the darkness. Once again there is silence in the kingdom. All heads are still bowed in the awesome omnipotence of the sun. He utters his voice. It has begun. The era of God, angels and man. The great purge of heaven and the 3 purges of earth. By the earth and by water and by fire, my will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Amen, the sun said. With that proclamation, he steps through the great door into the realm of the beyond. That was the Great Angelic War of heaven.
Well now, ain't this a surprise?
You played a very dangerous game.
Change always is.
Just how long do you think this peace is going to last?
As long as it can. What about the others?
What others?
The ones that want out.
Obviously, they will be freed.
I have your word.
What do you think I am? Human?